Board of Supervisors has released a statement prior to the show starting about the Ruckersville Fire Department. And a lot of people are wondering is the Ruckersville Fire Department about to be disbanded. We see the value of fire and rescue. Last night in the Dunlora neighborhood, a house caught fire. Was it 2 dogs, Judah, that died? I think it was 2 dogs and 1 cat is missing. Yeah. Fortunately, no people, but the house destroyed.
Yeah, tragic.
Tragic, absolutely tragic. Carytown's Garden Grove Brewery is closing. Guys, more and more breweries are closing. And I've been told locally that there's a couple that are in some financial difficulty. We'll break a little bit of news on that on the I Love CVille show. A lot we're going to cover on the program, guys. Like and share the show. Like and share the show. I'm going to ask you, Judah, when the show starts, which headline is most intriguing to you? Are we live on YouTube?
Yeah.
Excellent work. Excellent work. I think I'm ready to rock and roll. Are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready.
Okay. When we, after the show, if you could go to the YouTube channel and clean up some of those shows that didn't air, that says it's kind of waiting on there. Okay, fantastic. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please hammer the like button on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like and share the show. We work hard for you. Retweet it, like it, share it, comment. Please. We work hard for you. That's literally the only thing I ask. William McChesney, thank you for doing that. You're appreciated, Bill, the mayor of McIntyre. Thank you. I am ready to go there, J-Dubs.
Quiet on the set.
Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday afternoon. Our studio is situated in downtown Charlottesville in the Macklin building, right in the heart of a 300,000 person region we call Central Virginia. It's a dynamic region. It's a region of sophistication, of education, of old money and new money. It's cosmopolitan. It's deep in restaurant, in charm, in history. It's a region that has its skeletons. Boy, oh boy, does it have its skeletons in the closet. But it's a region that I'm very proud to call home. We have named one of our businesses I Love CVille because we love Charlottesville. Does Charlottesville have its issues, and do we like to point them out? Absolutely. Do we love Charlottesville? Hell yeah, we do. Today's program, you'll see how much we care about Charlottesville. It's all local. All the content is tied to this region, Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia. Do me a favor of liking the show. Hammer the like button, ladies and gentlemen. We work hard for you. Only thing I ask in return, you like the show, ask questions, you subscribe to the show, guys. We have the new head of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute, Mark Esser, utilizing this language when describing his soon-to-open biotechnology epicenter. We want Charlottesville to be the Silicon Valley of biotechnology. I want to talk about that today. Over the weekend, I was poolside sipping a margarita on the rocks, and I had some folks that were also at the pool that we were enjoying what was just beautiful weather. And they listened to the show. They were close. They're in... trying to do this in ways that does not speak out of turn. They are in high-level fundraising. So they like the show, don't always agree with the show, their words. They listen to the show, don't always like what we're talking about or agree with it, but they listen. And then they wanted to talk about the Paul Manning Biotech Institute on Fontaine Avenue. Asked me to swear, basically give a firstborn that I wouldn't reveal their identity. And I said, of course not. They said, I know, we listened to the show. You're good at protecting anonymity. And then they started breaking down the impact of job growth tied to this soon-to-open Biotech Institute. And they said that you may even be underestimating the impact population-wise it's going to have. on this community. They said it's easily going to be thousands, and it's easily going to be thousands with the data science school. And they're saying you're undervaluing the indirect job creation impact of these schools, and the fact that their benefactors are two of the wealthiest individuals in the region, in the Commonwealth, on the East Coast. We're talking billionaires in Paul Manning and Jeffrey Woodruff. The Biotech Institute specifically, the push from the University of Virginia is a Silicon Valley model. And now the new head, he's a PhD, Mark Esser, from previous employed by AstraZeneca. This is the company that created one of the COVID vaccines during the pandemic. It's a biopharmaceutical company, a research-based biopharmaceutical company. He was a vice president for vaccines and immune therapies at AstraZeneca. He's got a very unique title. His title, I'll give it to you specifically, the Chief Scientific Officer. He will work with scientists to accelerate the development of new medicines and treatments for illnesses like cancer and Alzheimer's. He is now doing the media circuit since he's been hired, and he is utilizing, we want Silicon Valley of biotechnology on Fontaine, guys. Silicon Valley. I want to talk about that on today's show. A lot we're going to cover on the program. You're making the one-shot dynamic? Let's do that, please. One-shot dynamic, every monologue to start the program from here on out. We're going to talk Albemarle County schools, spiting Trump, refusing to change, keeping whole truth history. Judah Wickower has that story. Are we not live on my Facebook page anymore, J-Dubs?
We were when I checked.
We're not live on my Facebook page.
All right.
We are live on I Love CVille Facebook, so you need to get mine up and running again, please. Thank you kindly. We're going to talk on today's program the Ruckersville Volunteer Fire Department, a statement released within the hour by the Greene County Board of Supervisors on the Ruckersville Fire Department, Volunteer Fire Department, potentially being disbanded. We saw yesterday the impact, the importance of fire and rescue personnel locally. A home in Dunlora has burnt down. 2 dogs tragically lost in this home. We are hearing that the home is owned by a friend of the program, a regular on the I Love CVille network, and a man of tremendous influence locally. That is not my news to get out there. But if what we're hearing is accurate of whose home caught on fire in the Dunlora neighborhood, my absolute thoughts and prayers are with our friend, someone who we respect and admire a great deal. And we also think about the fire and rescue personnel who are putting their lives on the line, putting out a fire that has burned a home down and killed 2 dogs in the process. I mean, it's crazy to think in 2025 that happens, guys. But a family has lost their house and all of their possessions. A lot I want to cover on the show. Give me a thumbs up when we're back up on my Facebook page.
Looks like it's up.
We're up? Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Carytown and Richmond. Carytown and Richmond reminds me of the downtown mall in Charlottesville. I love Carytown. And ladies and gentlemen, Carytown and Richmond has a brewery there, Garden Grove. That is the only brewery that is in Carytown. And ladies and gentlemen, Garden Grove Brewery is closing its doors. The headwinds that breweries are facing are tangible, palpable, obvious. Garden Grove was, when they opened, the 100th brewery in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now there's 350 breweries. And Garden Grove is closing its doors, choosing not to renew its lease, and pretty much going to asset sale. I would encourage all the business owners that are watching this program, before you determine that you want to close your doors of your business and basically do an asset sale is an equipment sale where you get pennies on the dollar. Before you get to that point, speak to a broker like me about selling your business. We've sold numerous businesses in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia, especially over the last 24 months. We've cracked $4 million in total sales in totality of the businesses that we've moved, either brokered the deals on one side of the table or the other. More than $4 million in transactions. Before you get to the asset sale portion or time of your business's lifespan, speak to me, because there's always an opportunity to move in a brand, especially a business that has history, equity, brand equity, longevity, has a strong balance sheet, has detailed financials, has cash flow. I mean, you'd be surprised what's out there, especially for someone that wants to get into a business. Buying something that's established is always easier than starting something from scratch. A lot we're going to cover on the show. And really, speaking of breweries, I think at this point I can talk about this now. The talk, and I've heard this from a number of people, the talk locally is Star Hill Brewery in Crozet is laid off a good chunk of their workforce. 30 to 40 people laid off at Star Hill Brewery. Based out of Crozet, they got the tap room and dairy market. 30 to 40 people laid off at Star Hill. The talk is also that Star Hill Brewery is no longer going to brew its own beer. The talk is that Hardywood Brewery in Richmond is going to start brewing Star Hill's beer and then shipping it to their tap rooms for their beer tenders to pour pints to customers. That is, I believe, the oldest brewery, ladies and gentlemen, in Charlottesville. Star Hill, the oldest, started at West Main Street, Star Hill. South Street, the second oldest brewery. So I'm hearing that 30 to 40 people have been laid off at Star Hill, and that they have now done a joint venture with Hardywood, where they're basically contracting Hardywood to brew the Star Hill recipes in Richmond and then delivering the beer to Crozet and to various tap rooms for beer tenders to pour pints for customers. Folks, the headwinds, palpable, tangible, and obvious for the beer business in the Commonwealth. A lot to cover on the show. A lot to cover on the show, including the People's Coalition protesting the expansion of the Albemarle County Jail. I was speaking to our favorite bank teller over at the bank we do banking at for the business, Judah, close to the office. First thing she mentioned to me, can you imagine expanding the Albemarle County Jail? They're going to make it so extravagant that people are going to want to commit crimes to go to jail. She literally said, I can't believe they're spending more of our dollars on expanding the jail. They're turning the jail into a hotel. Her words. The conversation I had when I was doing a deposit from a recent brokerage deal that we had finished. Viewers and listeners, like and share the show. We have, for those that need some flex space, some hybrid workspace, I have downtown executive office space that is available right now. Okay? Downtown executive office space that is available right now. If you need executive office space downtown, we have a couple of offices that are available right now that are very good deals. I'm excited to connect with the viewer and listener. Why don't we go to the studio camera and then go to a two-shot and let's welcome Judah Wickhauer into the program. John Blair, thank you for watching the show. We got a local newspaper, 2 local TV stations, a local radio station watching the program. We gave you a little bit of tidbit right there for your news cycle, Legacy Media, with the layoffs at Star Hill and what we're hearing, them no longer brewing their beer. That's a piece of fodder for your news cycles right there. Sarah Hill Buchensky, welcome to the program. The Queen of Jack Jewett, Carol Thorpe, Rob Neal, Jason Noble, welcome to the show. Bobby Yarborough, the King of Redfields, Carly Wagner, Johnny Ornalis, Gary Palmer, welcome to the program. A lot of viewers and listeners watching the show. Headline, most intriguing to you and why? Jack of all trades, Jack of all wits, Judah Wickhauer.
I think the assertion that CVille could become the Silicon Valley of biotech is extremely bold. I believe the current biotech center is Boston. Obviously, gaining manpower from both MIT and Harvard. So he certainly has an uphill battle, considering it's not even built yet.
He is on the the tour of chatting with media about what his vision, Mark Esser, is for the Biotechnology Institute. Mm-hmm. We'll start with that topic. We'll thank Charlottesville Sanitary Supply for being a part of the show. Nearly 61 years of proudly serving this community. John Vermillion, Andrew Vermillion, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, ladies and gentlemen, doing things the right way, the honest way, the communicative way, the customer support way. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com, and of course, on East High Street, the Vermillions, good people. That's got to be the lead. When you hear the new head of the Biotechnology Institute say, we're going to make this the Silicon Valley, Charlottesville, the Silicon Valley of biotechnology, then, ladies and gentlemen, your eyebrows raise and your ears perk up. Then when you're sitting poolside at a local pool, enjoying a margarita on the rocks with a peppered rim, catching some sunshine on a gorgeous weekend afternoon, and some folks come up to you, sit on the poolside chairs next to you, say, we like your show, we listen to your show, we don't always agree with your show, but we listen, and we want to talk about biotechnology on Fontaine, and then they are quick to correct you and say, you've said thousands will come for biotechnology and the data science school, and their words, and I'm not outing them because they asked for anonymity, they are high in fundraising locally. They've indicated you are underestimating the population impact that these two schools are going to have. They indicated that this is two world-class institutes, not Commonwealth class, state class, not East Coast class, not national class. Their words, they are building world-class institutes for data science and biotechnology here that will be expected to be world-class leaders and thought leaders. You are underestimating, their words, not mine, the indirect job creation that will spring from these two schools. You are underestimating the indirect impact. Their words, not mine. And I put in perspective something that, Deep Throat has put on my radar in the past that you can compare maybe to the research triangle in North Carolina with Duke, with UNC, with Wake Forest, with the Demon Deacons, and Winston-Salem. And I brought that up. I'm like, are we talking like a research triangle here? And they're like, that's a barometer. Silicon Valley's a barometer. Then I open up Virginia Public Media today, vpm.org, and when I'm on the vpm.org website, I'm seeing an interview of Mark Esser, a 4-minute interview that's been transcribed by Phil Lyles, and Esser straight up says, oh, we're going to make this the Silicon Valley of biotechnology right here in Charlottesville. Okay, so this all happened, this headline, these people talking to me at the pool over here within a 72-hour period. Okay, let's get to comments here. Number one in the family, Deep Throat, his photo on screen. There is already a Silicon Valley of biotech, Route 128 corridor in the Boston area. By the way, $100 million for Manning Institute is impressive. But I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm not even going to try. Is it Hans-Georg Weiss gave a total of $650 million in the last 5 years for the Wyss Institute for Biological Inspired Engineering? Of course, if nobody at Harvard can get a U.S. government grant, maybe Mr. Wyss will have to look to UVA for his next donation. I think that's tongue-in-cheek from Deep Throat. He also says, kidding aside, the real job growth from an institute like this is not from the institute itself, but rather the companies that arise from it. Fontaine isn't that big. Where will these spin-offs go around here? Probably not shoehorn into CVille City. We have a lot of empty land around here. Will we get a whole new business district in the area? It's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question right there. Mm-hmm. I will say this, and I've had to learn about this space firsthand. We had a biotechnology lab, very established biotechnology lab that was renting wet lab space. And the biotechnology lab got significantly behind on their rent. Judah, you helped put how would you call the list of equipment we had to repossess in a kind of an outline of what we had? How would you characterize that Excel document you put together?
Yeah, it was just a rundown of the who's who of biotech equipment.
Yeah, repossess the biotech equipment to make up for back rent.
Yeah.
Then I had the dubious task, the challenging task of taking that bio equipment and trying to sell it in the aftermarket, the secondary market, the used biotechnology market. And I'm like, oh my God, is this really what it's come down to? You're selling biotechnology to make up for back rent, biotechnology equipment to make up for months of back rent. And I was shocked at the end of fourth quarter of last year how quickly the biotechnology equipment sold. I'm talking $60,000 in equipment was sold in less than a month. 60 grand in equipment in less than a month, ladies and gentlemen, utilizing the I Love CVille network in our reach. They were chomping, it was like flies on poo, swarming the equipment, ladies and gentlemen. Then Trump gets into office, the federal cuts start happening, and then the flies on poo became, what's the wrap that catches the flies that you hang on a front porch?
Fly paper?
Fly paper was out. There was no more flies on the poo. Trump comes out, cuts federally, then they straight up said, we got no discretionary money to spend. So in a 30-day period of time, $50,000, $60,000 of biotechnology equipment, literally like that, where I was stacking wet labs, various labs at UVA, up in 1 hour blocks and said, you have from 3 to 4 to look at this equipment. You have from 4 to 5 to look at this equipment. You have from 2 to 3. I was stacking them in blocks, and I made sure, and I did it on purpose. It's an old tactic to create demand, to showcase the demand. You see this with certain realtors with open houses or with prospective buyer tours. You stack them in 30-minute or 1 hour blocks, and oftentimes the next tour shows up early, and you ask them to wait right on the edge as the other tour is finishing to create demand. I did that over the course of a month, 50, 60K, easy peasy, Sunday breezy. Then nothing, crickets. One of the things that I noticed, that I learned from this experience is the wet lab space, the biotechnology space, the actual space needed to do these labs is very few and far between in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. So one of the conundrums, the hurdles they're going to have to clear is finding the wet lab space. And wet lab space is very unique. You need significant ventilation. You need oftentimes doorways that are large enough to get this equipment in. What is it called where a truck backs up to something and unloads its semi-truck? That space in a building, unloading its semi-truck?
Like a bay, a loading bay?
A loading bay with a lot of these wet labs you see. Because the equipment's large in size to get in there. And I was absolutely shocked with how expensive this equipment was. We had pieces of equipment that, had they have been purchased new, like individual pieces of equipment were 6 figures. Brand new, 6 figures. That's why they were chomping at the bit to buy from us. Deep Throat says, if we're really talking thousands of actual biotech jobs, we will need to see a boatload of building. No Biogen alone just put its new headquarters there, 600,000 square feet. So the story I'm relaying to you, I'm sitting poolside this weekend. Yeah, Bill McChesney, thank you, at Loading Dock. And heavy fundraiser comes to me and says, you are underestimating the indirect impact of what this is going to do to our community. You are underestimating, and made it very clear to me that it was significant underestimation. All right, next headline. Judah Wickhauer, put it on screen. Is that you setting the stage for this headline?
I think so.
What do you got? Randy O'Neill, yes, the Research Triangle in North Carolina. Bill McChesney, loading dock, you were 100% right. Tom Powell, the word on the street is the Ruckersville Volunteer Fire Department may be disbanded. And I agree, the Greene County Board of Supervisors, within the last hour, the press release issued about the Ruckersville Volunteer Fire Department was a big nothing burger. You talk about a press release that said nothing. We'll get to that story in a matter of moments. Judah Wickhauer, set the stage, set the stage, set the stage.
I don't know if they're spiting Trump. I think the Albemarle County schools are trying to do their best for the students. In this particular case, I don't know if there's even a fight involved. Obviously, we all know that that orders have come down from this presidency that schools should not be teaching anti-racist policies. Some of the other terms that have been used to describe it. And I don't know if what the Albemarle County schools are doing falls into that category.
You're burying the lead. What's the lead here?
The lead is that...
First, you need to tell the viewers and listeners, so you don't bury the lead, of what the phrase means, the type of teaching.
Whole truth history is, as far as I understand it, a method of teaching that involves engaging students, asking them to give solid proof for their opinions, and teaching them critical thinking skills so that they're not just parroting what they read in books, but they're actively thinking about what they read, what they hear, and forming opinions and discussing those opinions with the class and having discussions where their opinions may be challenged, and they get to stand or fall on their ability to. It sounds similar to debate, where you're not just asked to to write a long essay, where you're actively working on adjusting your thought process, which I find.
I like it. I like everything I'm hearing. I want students to fail forward.
Yeah.
I learned that phrase "fail forward" when doing the school tours for our soon. Goodness gracious, our oldest finishes first grade tomorrow. So our soon-to-be second grader who finishes first grade tomorrow. What a big boy. Few things in my life make me more proud than watching our two boys grow up and experience life. And in doing school tours with our oldest, we learned the phrase "fail forward." There's nothing wrong with failing as long as you fail forward. I was having conversations with clients yesterday. We helped them in a $1.1 million acquisition that closed officially yesterday. It was supposed to close a week ago, but as closings go, sometimes they delay. A $1.1 million acquisition. I was helping my clients, and I said to the wife of it was a husband and wife that made the purchase. Now the real work begins. And she was like, I'm like, don't worry, I'm here to help. It's the consulting services we provide. We'll help make the business model, we'll make the business model go. And I explained, I've been doing this for 17 years. I've failed so many times in 17 years, but I've failed forward in those 17 years where we've utilized the failure as a lesson learned. There's various ways to get an education. There's the traditional ways of getting the education, whole truth history, as Judah outlined. There's ways to get an education, street smarts, practical experience, learning from a mentor, ways to get an education. There's failing over and over again, but as long as you take that failure as a way to learn something and improve your model as a way to get an education. Various ways to learn, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Albemarle County, this is what I want to see the story with Albemarle County Public Schools, okay? Albemarle County has been referenced by the Trump administration already. Albemarle County, the exact school name, Albemarle County Public Schools, has been utilized by the Trump administration in a release with its diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum and a need to eradicate DEI from the curriculum, much like he's making a push with the DOJ and the University of Virginia.
His order charged that Albemarle's anti-racism policy is based on critical race theory.
Yep. Say it again for Sally in the back.
Sally, Trump's order charged that Albemarle's anti-racism policy is based on critical race theory, which, from what I understand of critical race theory, I'm not a big fan of it. I believe it led some students to feeling essentially pointed at, bullied. You're telling kids that because of things that happened 50, 75, 100 years ago, you're a bad person. That's maybe a little simplistic, but I think that is largely what the problem that a lot of people have with systems like critical race theory. And I believe that Albemarle County has changed the way they teach. This is not critical race theory, and I'd be happy if our viewers care to chime in. I would love to learn more about what's going on, and parents of students, how they feel about Albemarle County schools and their teaching methods. But they changed the curriculum. No one objected at board meetings where they talked about it, and there's no evidence that there have been complaints since. And one of the educators there has gone on to say that there is no explicit teaching of critical race theory in the district currently. They also signed the certificates that were sent from the Trump administration, saying that they are compliant with Title IV. So, for all intents and purposes, it seems like Albemarle County is doing things right. And
doing things right, is that the right way of putting it? Following what Trump is asked of them, is that a different way of putting it?
That is a different way of putting it.
Is that because right is in the eyes of the beholder? They're being strong-armed by the president to do it his way.
I don't think there is a his way.
You don't think there's a his way with Trump when it comes to schools in this country?
I think there's a certain amount of don't do this, don't do that.
Isn't that his way then, if he's saying don't do something?
Splitting hairs, but yeah, I guess.
Okay. So the curious thing I'm following is, do they keep towing the Trump line to maintain the federal funding? And the federal funding, while not the top funding for schools, the top funding for schools, of course, Albemarle County, but at this point, any cuts that a school district gets is going to have an impact. Any cuts at all.
Oh, yeah, always. We don't know if those cuts would survive a court challenge, but I don't know that the executive office has ever or should have a whole lot of say in how elementary schools teach kids.
Yeah, the point I made, and this is not about liberal or conservative, Democrat or Republican, pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It's not about that. I don't think Trump should have a say in what the University of Virginia does operationally. I think that say should come from the Board of Visitors who report to the governor, but the president should go in, for lack of a better phrase, trump what the governor wants or what the BOV wants, and that's what he's doing. I think it's some overreach. It's certainly overreach to do it at the grassroots levels with public schools in Virginia. But hey, that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in. The rules of the game have changed. And that's life. So the winners and losers. Winners adapt to the rules, losers don't. That's life. There's always winners and losers, ladies and gentlemen. John Blair, number 2 in the family's got this comment. On the first topic with biotechnology and Fontaine, John Blair is offering a comment on. Deep throat is 100% correct, John Blair says. Academic institutes are not economic development engines in and of themselves. You will need not only a special land use business district, but you will need a financial ecosystem for startups that capture the research spinoff. 1,000%. 1,000% correct. 1,000% correct. If you're just tuning into the program, the new head of the Biotech Institute, Mark Esser, says we're going to turn this into the Silicon Valley. Charlottesville is going to be the Silicon Valley of biotechnology. Then over the weekend, I had a conversation with a heavy hitter in fundraising who said, I listened to your show and you are underestimating significantly the indirect impact of what the Data Science School and the Biotechnology Institute are going to do to population uptick and wealth influx in our area. Significantly underestimating his words, not mine. John Blair adds this. Did you see where Klarna had a horrible quarter? Remember the show was talking about Klarna's idea of layaway for food a couple months ago? Yeah. Given their default rate this past quarter, I wonder if they're rethinking layaway for food now. I mean, goodness gracious. Let's put a steak and cheese on a payment plan. Give me $2.50 a month for the next 5-6 months. Of course that's going to fail. What is the collateral for the steak and cheese? You ate it, it's in your belly, it left your body, and you flushed it. How can you get the steak and cheese back? This deal that we just closed, if the seller finance deal doesn't work out, you take the bricks back if you're the seller. You take the building back. There's obvious collateral on top of the down payment, which was significant skin in the game up front. So much to cover on the program. Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro says, good afternoon. When you have one race that's built itself off the sweat and backs of numerous ethnicities for centuries, then to act as if they are faultless is a joke. Dr. Jane Elliott proved that point. Do you want to touch that comment, Judah Wickhauer?
I would have to look into Dr. Jane Elliott, but I mean...
You're going to choose your words carefully on this one. There goes Lloyd Snook right there.
It's one thing to... I need to reread that comment.
I gladly reread it for you, but I'm hesitant to because I'm really making sure you're measured in what you have to say here. Yancey in Waynesboro, when you have one race that built itself off the sweat and backs of numerous ethnicities for centuries, then to act as if they are faultless is a joke.
There's a lot in there. Centuries is, if we're just talking about white people, I'm not going to get into it, but it's one thing to acknowledge those things. It's another to teach children that that they're inherently evil because of something that happened in the past.
I think you handled it pretty well. There you go. Kevin Yancey, your rebuttal to Judah Wickhauer's comments right there. Randy O'Neill's very straightforward. Randy O'Neill's comment, CRT is another way to launder money through public schools. It is endless. Vanessa Parkhill, UVA would probably welcome new biotech business to Norfolk Research Park. I'm going to tell you right what I think is going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen, viewers and listeners. You're going to see one of these significant movers and shakers in Charlottesville that have very deep pockets in Charlottesville, Albemarle County. And we have, 4 or 5 billionaires in Charlottesville? We talked about this on the other day. Let me see. 4 billionaires? Was it 4, Deep Throat? Did we get to 5 with our number? I'm putting Pete on the list, Pete Snyder of billionaires in Charlottesville. Did we get to 5 or was it 4? The wealth in Charlottesville is going to build a biotechnology campus or epicenter. And they're going to they're going to create the buildings, do the plans and the layouts with wet space in mind. Wet space is so few and far between. You guys want a way to make a lot of money locally? My business, how we make money is real estate. You find wet space in Charlottesville and Albemarle County that is currently vacant and unrented. Tell me, and I'll give you 10 tenants tomorrow that are willing to spend $30 plus a square foot, $40 a foot for that space. Tomorrow, I'll have 10 options for you at $30, $40 a foot. You build wet space for what's coming, various size wet space, small team, middle teams, large teams, you will stack paper. Stack paper, ladies and gentlemen. Mark that down. Mark it down that you heard it here. James Watson, does biotech depend heavily on federal funding and grants? Where does the revenue come from? Mark Esser, the biotechnology head at UVA, says the federal funding is to be determined. He was literally asked that question. And remember, Paul Manning's facility is going to be 350,000 square feet and 4 stories, and it's going to host cutting-edge technology, world-class technology. The federal funding, he said, it's too early to tell. The University of Virginia, he says, is continuing to monitor all the actions and policies coming from the federal government and will continue to do that and work closely with policymakers and our funders at NIH, the National Institute of Health. He was then asked, what kind of impact will the cuts do to the industry as a whole? He says it's too early to tell, but that funding from the NIH to fund basic research is truly foundational. The new knowledge that comes from basic research is what fuels the whole drug discovery and development paradigm and industry. So that funding is critical to not only fund that research, but train and develop new scientists and physicians. So James Watson, that's a great question. Ray Cadell is watching the program. 10 minutes ago, Ray Cadell, his photo on screen. He's a real estate broker. 10 minutes ago spoke with one of my investor clients about the Manning Institute story. He said, let's buy right now. That's a real estate broker saying he had a conversation 10 minutes ago with an investor client about looking to buy right now. Curious to see the impact this has on the Fry Springs neighborhood, around Fontaine. Very curious to see that impact. Janice Boyce Trevelyan said, good job, Judah. Noble Custom Woodworks said, bingo, Judah, with your response. Carol Thorpe, my limited understanding, Queen of Jack Jewett's photo on screen. My limited understanding about CRT is that there has been a twisting of semantics. Few teach CRT, but rather its principles have been applied in curriculum and attitude. That's the objection.
I don't know how you untangle something like that, though.
It's a great question. Deep Throat answers James Watson's question. On biotech funding, the spin-off companies will have venture funding. Total venture funding for biotech in the U.S. is like $25 billion a year. The NIH funding for biotech is $6 to $7 billion. That's damn good from Deep Throat. That's why he's number one in the family. That's a great answer from James Watson's question on LinkedIn. James Watson asked about the federal funding. Deep Throat offers intel that I did not have. The biotech funding comes from venture funding. Total venture funding for biotechnology in the United States is $25 billion a year. NIH funding for biotechnology is $6 to $7 billion. So we're talking a 4x multiplier with venture versus federal funding. NIH stands for National Institutes of Health. Damn good stuff from Deep Throat right there. So who builds, what money in Charlottesville builds the biotechnology epicenter or campus of wet lab space for various teams? Some 500,000 square foot. If the Paul Manning Institute is 350,000 square feet, someone building a 500,000 square foot epicenter to rent out wet lab space to teams on 5 and 10-year leases at $40 a foot. If you're first to market and you build that lab, that epicenter, you can command pinnacle dollar, top dollar, because there's no, you guys don't understand. The customization needed for wet lab space for biotechnology it's extremely custom. It's extremely custom. This isn't like just a white box that you have in a building and someone moves into a white box and makes it their own. It's extremely custom with the ventilation, extremely custom with the water. The lighting is an issue. The loading, getting in and out of the space is an issue. It's extremely custom. Somebody does this, 40 a foot is easy to lease. Easy to lease at 40 a foot. Kevin Yancey pushing back on Judah Wickower and the other viewers and listeners. Judah, is it okay for ethnicities locally to have grandparents or parents who have firsthand experience with blatant racism less because someone feels bad? Isn't that... I'm not understanding this, Kevin Yancey.
I'm not.
Isn't that a conscious when someone's grandfather was treated the way they were and are able to speak on it? Kevin, I did not understand your comment here. We don't mind the pushback. I just don't understand the comment. Jeremy Wilson's watching in Tennessee. The ones that support CRT are the ones that are racist in their heart. I'm a quarter Cherokee Indian and a member of the Eastern Band. As much as Native Americans have been mistreated, CRT is wrong to teach our children. Respect for different races is how to teach our children. That's Jeremy Wilson, who's watching in Tennessee right now. He's become a regular member of the family from Tennessee. We appreciate Mr. Wilson watching the program. All right, it's 1:20. We have a lot of other topic matter to get to. What's next? Carytown?
Rockersville, Carytown.
All right, put Carytown. We got beer information to get to. Carytown in Richmond. Have you been there? If not, it's awesome. You should go. I love Carytown. Get brunch at Can. Walk up and down Carytown with your kids, with your spouse, with your partner on a date, a family day, whatever you want to do it. Carytown in Richmond's eclectic, it's charming, it's got personality, it's got je ne sais quoi. This is where Judah usually laughs with me using that.
I think you actually used it correctly this time.
Oh, thank you very much. It's got a lot of pizzazz. Not only am I commandeering words from the English language into Jerryisms, I'm commandeering phrases from the French language into Jerryisms. But apparently I used it correctly this time. Unfortunately for Carytown lovers and goers, Garden Grove Brewing is closing in June, a month from now. It ends a 10-year run on Cary Street. The owner says we're not going to renew our lease. The owner and the liquid maker, the brewer, are now going to get into firefighting. They're changing their careers altogether and are getting into firefighting. They are heading to what they describe as an asset sale, which basically means an equipment sale where you sell pennies on the dollar. We let you know on the I Love CVille show when the Champion brewing equipment went to auction. Equipment valued, even in its used state, well over 6 figures. It sold for pennies on the dollar. And a lot of the equipment that was purchased in the Champion auction was purchased by the beer manufacturer equipment, the manufacturing company that makes the equipment, to keep the equipment from watering down the market. That's a major red flag. When an equipment manufacturer buys back its own equipment at auction to keep the equipment from watering down or depreciating prices in the beer business. That's what happened with the Champion auction. Garden Grove, I don't know if they talk with a broker like me. We have clients that want to get into the beer game. Funded cash clients. We have multiple groups of cash buyers on our roster at Charlottesville Business Brokers. We've done north of $4 million in business broker deals over the last 24 months. Combined dollar amounts for the deals we've brokered, folks. Garden Grove says, we're done, we're out of here. We're not renewing our lease. When they opened 10 years ago, they were the 100th brewery in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now there's 350. I'm told locally that there's headwinds in this industry across the board. I've also said on previous shows, I'll say it again on this show, Star Hill Brewery just had a round of layoffs. Star Hill Brewery. 30 to 40 people laid off Star Hill. I have also heard from multiple reliable sources, I've said on past shows, that Star Hill is no longer brewing its own beer. That it's now contracted Hardywood in Richmond to brew its beer. Oh. And to then take the kegs to its various tap rooms to serve. That they are cutting costs. So you now have the oldest brewery in Charlottesville, Star Hill, not brewing its beer, but instead using another brewery to brew its recipes. These are headwinds, obvious headwinds that I've talked about for the last 5 minutes. I want to ask you, the viewer and listener, what is going to happen to the spaces that are homes to these breweries should they close? These are very specific spaces tied to beer making.
Yeah.
Could they be repurposed into biotechnology? I don't know. But I do know that these massive spaces do not fit a lot of business models, at least not in their current form. So that's something to follow, ladies and gentlemen. That's a trend to follow. As a new industry is booming, biotechnology, another industry that was a flagship, was a flag carrier for the brand of the region, for the Commonwealth as a whole, beer, craft beer. Goodness gracious, that carried a flag for Charlottesville and Central Virginia, right?
Yeah.
That was part of the marketing, the brewery, the wineries, the vineyards, touting. You got wineries and vineyards for sale all over the Commonwealth, folks. One industry is booming as another industry is falling. Capitalism in America, ladies and gentlemen. Innovate or die. And you're clearly seeing the consumer being seltzer-centric, non-alcoholic NA-centric, cannabis THC-centric, health-minded. I play a lot of squash, got to know some of the UVA team. Had a conversation with some of the former captains. I asked them about drinking. You guys drink a lot? Go out to bars? What do you do for fun? You get after it? Close down the bars on the UVA corner? One of them said to me, "No, we don't really drink. I don't really drink." This is a guy that is 22, looks like an Adonis, well-spoken, sharply dressed, confident, intelligent, athletic, the quintessential guy of yesteryear that you would see closing down the bars say, "No, we don't really drink." It's just not the mindset of what it was a generation ago. A lot of times the conversation around the economy was, what is recession-proof? Booze was always recession-proof. Is it now? Is it now, folks? Carytown's Garden Grove Brewery is closing after a decade. Ay mi madre. Kevin Yancey, anyone getting into anything beer right now is a fool. All analysts of the industry in any form say it's on a downturn that may not ever recover. That's from Kevin Yancey. Bill McChesney, I do not think I would go to a brewery next to a biotech lab. I was nervous to go into the biotech lab to get the equipment. Some of the equipment still had some fluid residue on it.
Strangely glowing spiders.
It's like, what is this residue? I'm not touching it. I collected the checks. I wasn't touching the equipment. Jason Noble's watching the program. Forget affordable housing. We need more affordable brewing. Oh, man. Neil Williamson, curious if the wet space is so custom, would it not be difficult to know those demands and build it on spec? That's a great question. Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum. If I was the person that had is it 5 billionaires in the area? What number did we decide? I know it's at least 4. If I was the money behind building this wet space, what I would do is I would work with somebody like me, find the partners for the space in advance, and then build the wet labs out to spec on what they want. Yeah. And then I would form a JV with the potential tenant of the wet lab space, and I said, I will build this to spec for you, but you're going to contribute to the build out. I'll give you some build out allowance, but you're going to contribute to the build out over this threshold. But we'll build the space out spec for you. It'll be close to Paul Manning. It'll be close to where the students are. You can get some student interns. You can create a pipeline and a funnel, but that's how I would do it. If I had an infinite pot of money and I wanted to build a model like this, and I swear to God, first to market's got $40 a foot lease, no problem, all day, every day, twice on Sunday. 5% escalators every single year. Deep Throat. You wonder if the land Graystar is using would have been more profitable developed into 30-acre biotech zone. Certainly would have been better for the community.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. 525 units on the bypass on Old Ivy Road on 30 acres. 525 units. That's insanity. Insanity. Kevin Yancey, for the record, Hardywood Brewery is less than 12 months out of its own financial crisis. That is true. I'm not going to, I said this months ago that there were local breweries that were facing significant headwinds, but I wasn't going to name them by name. Today I named Star Hill and a layoff of 30 to 40 people, and the fact that beer was being now outsourced for brewing by a brewery in Richmond instead of the headquarters in Crozet. There are others locally that are in financial peril, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very curious to see what happens with the spaces. Very curious to see what happens with the spaces because they are very unique. Next headline, what do we got? Judah Wickhauer, jack of all trades, jack of all wits.
Let's see. People's Coalition protest expansion of Albuquerque jail.
First conversation, I go to the bank today. I like to do my banking in person. Like to know my branch manager. Like to know my relationship banker. Like to know the tellers. When you go in to deposit company checks, right? They say, oh, you know Jerry, you work for Jerry. Is that what they say to you?
More or less, yeah.
Right? You say you're Ty, you work for me. They're like, oh, we know. We know what account to go in. We know Jerry, because I go in there. I intentionally, strategically do FaceTime with the money people. It's a strategy. It's not the most efficient use of my time. But I go in, I know them. I know their names, their children's names, their hobbies, their interests, what they like to do, their grandkids' names. I have a relationship with them. They ask the same of me. So when it's time to needing money for something, there's no ice breaking that's needed. It's already there. Already there. I go in today to drop off a check from the brokerage deal. First thing they say, can you believe the jail wants to expand? She says to me, geez Louise, Jerry, do a podcast on criminals wanting to commit crime to go to this 5-star hotel we call an Albemarle County jail. Her words, her words. She says, and isn't it a better use for seniors in our community having that taxpayer money go to some resources for us as seniors than to go to the jail? Her words, not mine. Set the stage for the jail. Set the stage for the People Coalition.
I'm a little divided on this. The stage is that
Judah wants to roll out the water beds for the folks in the jails, the red carpets for the folks in the jails, and the 200 head count pillows for the folks in the jails.
Yeah. Okay. They protested, the People's Coalition protested in front of Charlottesville City Hall on Monday. They are not happy, as Jerry has posited that the woman at the bank is also not happy, that we are going to spend $73 million to expand the Albemarle County Regional Jail. They think that the money can be used in better ways. There's an article that gives almost no information about any of this, but if you look up their website, I find it very interesting. It's not so much that they don't want. It's not so much that they don't want to spend the money on the jail. It's that it's a lot of money, and with the number of people in the jail decreasing, they don't think that that the jail you need to make the jail nicer. Now, I think that if there are systems in the jail, whether it's water, power, whether it's old moldy equipment, I think the jail should at least be, serviceable. I'm not gonna argue whether $73 million is too much.
$73
or not
million
enough.
dollars.
But what they want,
$73 million. That's more than 10% of the Albemarle County yearly budget to run the jurisdiction.
they are they want to spend the money on programs that keep people out of jail rather than spending the money on the jail. They want to spend more money on mental health services, restorative justice programs, and other support services. I don't know about all those programs, but I can certainly get behind spending more money keeping people from ending up in jail rather than spending a massive amount of money making a what some people might call a what was it that she called it? A
Hotel for criminals.
A hotel for criminals. I'm not sure how true that is, but
That's what she called it.
It certainly is.
3 hots and a cot.
3 hots and a cot.
Hotel for criminals, 3 hots and a cot.
It certainly, if that's what everybody was calling it, I think it certainly would get people's blood up.
Correction on the Star Hill. Thank you, Kevin Yancey. Hardywood is taking over all things wholesale and distributors for Star Hill. Star Hill will make some of its beer for the tap rooms, but Hardywood, come on, $73 million. This is why when I go into a bank and I speak to a teller who's close to retirement age, she said, how about we have things in this community that'll support the retirees? How about they fund some of that money into the senior center? $73 million